Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Rustabout Collector here, and today we are taking a look at two all-new Star Wars Vintage Collection Clone Trooper packs, or releases I guess you could say. We have the all-new Phase 2 Clone Trooper Army Builder Battle Pack, which is absolutely stunning, and then we have the all-new Vintage Collection Clone Commander Rex, or Captain Rex, however you want to call him. It's Rex. It's our boy Rex. Now, I've had this battle pack for quite some time, but I just never got around to making a video on it, so I figured what better way to do that than to bring it all together in one video and do a big 501st kind of review here with these troopers and their commander, Captain Rex. We'll start things off with this battle pack, and honestly, the front cover here is really nice. I do love how they do these little group photos of the clone troopers, even though sometimes they give them E11s, Stormtrooper blaster rifles, instead of their proper DC-15s. I don't know why that happens, it just does. It's not a big deal. This artwork looks really cool, and yeah, what more can you say about a battle pack like this? It's not meant to be really displayed on a shelf. It is meant to give you as many clones in a small cardboard box as possible. Inside, we get our standard issue Clone Troopers inside of standard issue tissue paper. Now in this pack you get 4 Clone Trooper action figures. You get 2 Grunts, a 501st, and a 332nd. This package retails for $55, I believe, which feels like a pretty good deal, honestly. These figures would normally be $16 in store, and so you're getting essentially a $5 discount, or like a $10 discount roughly in there, between $5 and $10 off if you bought these individually single carded. I wish that was a little bit better, maybe like $50, but still, it's not too shabby. It's definitely better than some of the prices they were charging. Along with these 4 figures, you get 4 DC-15 carbines, the shorter clone blasters like this, and then you also get 2 DC-15 rifles, these longer variants, and both blasters are based off of the realistic interpretations from Revenge of the Sith and the Attack of the Clones, so I definitely appreciate that. I like these bulkier DC-15s, not the earlier Clone Wars ones that I think we got with the ARC Troopers. I can't remember, but this is my favorite sculpt for TVC DC-15s by far. Now, as with any good Army Builder pack, these 4 figures are identical. They are the same body mold we've seen before with the Andor Clone Trooper, as well as the 212th Army Builder pack, so this is the same body we've seen before. I'm not really going to go over articulation, besides the fact of just reiterating that this is the best Clone Trooper body we have gotten in the 3 3/4 inch scale. It's very realistic, it's accurate, and the posability for things like crouching and running and holding blasters up to eyes and things like that are just innumerable. You can do so much with this figure. The sculpt work is amazing, and it does not limit the articulation nearly as much as you would think. And again, by far, this is the best Clone Trooper body mold we have ever gotten. And now it has an all-new Clone Trooper helmet sculpt, which I think is also up there with one of the best Clone Trooper head sculpts we've ever gotten. Unlike the previous releases on this body mold, it is not removable, although you can pop it off of the ball joint. It's just not removable in the sense that there is a Temuera Morrison head sculpt underneath. So really, it is just a Clone Trooper, a faceless Clone Trooper. It certainly would have been nice to get some more Temuera Morrison head sculpts included, but you know, I'm not really mad about it. The helmet doesn't deform like the hollow one does. It fits on there very nicely and scales very nicely with the figure. It also seems like Hasbro has gotten much better with the deco hits. The stripes and visor and little frown here are all very nicely aligned. They don't bleed over anywhere majorly, and honestly, yeah, I could not be more pleased with these figures, and I'm very stoked to get a couple of these army packs to have extra shinies as well as the extra 501st and 332nd. Then we also get 1 501st Clone Trooper, again, same body mold, so same articulation. Again, it's amazing. This figure mold is the best Clone Trooper we have gotten in Vintage Collection, and possibly of all time. I think the sculpt work on things like the antenna mold might be slightly better, just in terms of proportion and things like that, but for posability, this is absolutely the definitive Clone Trooper body mold we probably will ever see for 3 3/4 inch Star Wars. Really, this figure is just a standard 501st. He's got the blue deco. It is a darker blue than Revenge of the Sith should have. This is more of a Clone Wars 501st blue, and yes, there is a difference, and it's pretty significant, but I'm not going to get too picky because of one little factor about the blue, and I will get to that in just a moment. But there is some nice deco here. It's very straight and aligned properly. I appreciate that. You know, we've had some issues with clone deco in the past. Here, it seems to be aligned perfectly, and there's even some weathering here on the leg stripes and the chest. However, I wish that that same scratching and deco hits were also on the shoulder bells and on the helmet. It seems kind of weird to have the weathering be only on his legs and chest, and then not carry over to the shoulders or his helmet. That's probably just a budget thing or something, but still, if you're going to go to the trouble of doing that, just carry it on at least up to the helmet. I feel like that would be super easy just to add it into the paint deco here at the very least. I know these are molded in blue, but this is applied. Why couldn't you apply, you know, the blue but just splotchier like you did here? I don't know. I digress. I do wish that the weathering was carried over. I miss things like peak 501st Clone Trooper here, with his weathering being like the carbon scoring from Revenge of the Sith. Oh, and it even has the blue painted backplate, which isn't always included with 501st, but it is on the original Revenge of the Sith renders, so that is technically accurate. I believe in some of the new appearances for 501st Clone Troopers that's removed, like maybe in Ahsoka, but you know, consistency is never really a thing that we can rely on with Star Wars, and that's okay. We just kind of have to accept it, I think. Now, on my second shiny clone, I will address one minor thing that I have noticed with some of these. Not all, not even most, just some, where you can kind of see here on like the line above the brow, there's like a weird way that the paint is kind of spiking up, almost bleeding off of the lines a little bit. And that might have to do with something with the plastic or the way the paint was applied. It's still straight, it's not crooked or anything like that. The visor is still pretty nicely painted on there and everything, but for some reason right there it just kind of bleeds over, and I've noticed that in a couple places on some of these packs that I've gotten. It's nothing major, it's nothing that like stands out to me unless I get like this close to the figure, but you might notice that if you pick up one of these packs, you'll see a little bit of that bleeding on some of the paint apps. To me, that's not a huge deal breaker, and it doesn't take away a ton from this battle pack. I still think it's absolutely excellent and one of my favorites in all of Star Wars 3 3/4 inch. But, you know, maybe that's more like a final thought for this video. And finally, we have Ahsoka's Battalion, the 332nd Clone Trooper, and this is where the color of blue comes in very nicely. So basically what has happened throughout Star Wars is the color of blue for the 501st has changed drastically from figure to figure and even from appearance to appearance in Star Wars media. The original render is a very, very light blue. You can see that in some promotional material, but then in the movie, you only ever see them at night. And so their armor appears more this color blue because there's less light on it and it just looks darker. So then in Clone Wars and several other appearances, including action figure form, even in the old days like 2005, the darker blue is more commonly seen, even though, again, it should technically be lighter. But one thing that I really appreciate here is that they match between the 501st and the 332nd. This is something that I believe Emily from the Vintage Collection line, like over at Hasbro, stated explicitly that they tried to have cohesion between the 501st blue and the 332nd blue. That's technically correct, but there has been figure iterations where we've seen different colors of blue between the two figures, so here we have a unification of the 501st and 332nd. A prime example of that difference is the blue here seen on the 332nd we got on the skinny mold, and good heavens is this an abysmal Clone Trooper mold. I know we all like to hate on the skinny mold, but seeing these two next to each other, this guy here in my right hand is trash. It's actually trash. I'm sorry. If you like this clone mold, that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. This does not look good. His helmet is massive. His body looks kind of, you know, sickly. And then here you have the peak 501st Clone Trooper in his Revenge of the Sith bulky armor. This is a peak Clone Trooper. This is not. I'm sorry. Anyways, I digress. I get off on so many tangents in these videos, but I digress. These two are two different shades of blue. It's minor. It's very, very minor, but it still is there. This is a much brighter blue on the 332nd. This is a much more muted blue and actually a little bit closer to the Revenge of the Sith color of blue. But still, they are different, even though technically in universe these blues should match. So I really do appreciate the effort that they went to here, even though they did technically just use the same body and then just swapped heads here. I just appreciate the cohesion. We don't have to worry about the slight differences in shade here. They are the same. As a quick comparison here we have the antenna mold Clone Trooper, what I previously deemed as the peak He falls over right when I call him Peak. Don't you notice how funny that is? But here on the left we have the antenna mold Clone Trooper. I still think this is an absolutely awesome mold for 3 3/4 inch Star Wars Clone Troopers. I will still collect this mold anytime I can get it for a decent price. However, I think this is a much more affordable successor to this older mold. This is readily accessible. It is in stock on pretty much any website I can look at right now. It's reasonably priced, I feel like, for like, you know, 13 bucks a figure. That's not bad for this articulation and this mold. Honestly, yeah, this is a great figure for its time and still holds up today. But if you're going to go out and try and collect in 2024, boom, right here. You get a 4-pack with 4 awesome figures, and you no longer have to worry about this sickly clone trooper who's begging for some attention over here. Please, I was injured in the war. Please give me some credits. No, we don't want you here, Skinny Mold. Get out of here. Get out of here. We only want peak clone troopers here on the Rust Belt Collector channel, and right here are the 2 best clone trooper molds. They're roughly 20 years apart, and the articulation difference really does show in advancements of technology and what they can do at this scale. But still, they hold up really well, and I do think that really, if you have an army of just mix and match 3 3/4 inch figures, this still holds up as well. You could still have a shelf with these figures and these figures next to each other, and they would look awesome. You'd still be able to see these at a glance and go, oh yeah, that's 501st. That's Anakin's fist, Vader's fist. That's the 501st. I love those guys. Blue clone troopers. Heck yeah, man, I love those. But moving our boys in blue to the side, let's take a look at our other boy in blue, Captain Rex. This figure just came out, and honestly, I was surprised that I managed to find it on store shelves. In the year 2024, I found this figure along with the full wave of vintage collection figures on a Walmart shelf. Technically on an end cap, but still, that is incredible, and I was very happy to pick this up. Picked up an extra for the card back to keep on card, just because I found it in store. I didn't really, I don't know, I just did. I did it, I have it on card now. If nothing else, I can take it apart and use it for a custom. But anyways, I have this figure here. He's got really nice card art here. This is a great picture of Rex on the card. On the title, it is interesting that this is denoted as Clone Commander Rex from the Bad Batch. That's interesting to me. I think it's interesting. One, he's very dirty here and he's very clean here. That's interesting. And also, Clone Commander Rex, I'm pretty sure he got demoted after Season 7. Pretty sure this is Captain Rex. Not that it matters. It's a very minor gripe. I'm just nitpicking here. I'm being the nerd. I'm being the stereotypical nerd here. I'm being like, oh, this guy's technically Captain Rex, and you know what? No one cares. I understand that. I'm just saying, technically, if we want to be really, really pedantic here and be down in the nitty gritty, it's Clone Captain Rex. Get it right, Hasbro. Gosh. On the back, we have some cool promotional artwork, a little description, and yeah, more of that standard TVC card back that we are used to by now. But ultimately, this figure doesn't do us any good in the package, so we have to do the unthinkable and there's our boy Captain Rex out of the packaging. It's surprising that it took us this long to get a fairly accurate, moderately accurate, decently accurate clone Captain Rex in the vintage collection. I'm still bitter about the canceled Phase 1 version that we got that had accurate Revenge of the Sith gear, like his pauldron and his kama, but alas, we will have to do with this Clone Wars amalgamation of Phase 2 Captain Rex. And honestly, this is a pretty good adaptation of the figure. It uses the Andor mold again, so same articulation, all that good stuff. Like with the other Phase 2s, it's got good deco. You can see all the little hash marks here and there, and even there. You know, there's really good accuracy, there's good deco. The head sculpt honestly looks absolutely phenomenal. At this scale, it's incredible. It is interesting that he has a little bit of like a hard part on this side. I don't remember if that's on like the Captain Rex model in the Clone Wars, but he does have a little bit of a hard part going on in his hair there. Just something I felt like noting. I thought maybe that was like a paint error, but every single one I saw on the shelf had that, so it must be accurate, and I just never noticed. He comes equipped with the standard DC-17 pistol that we got with the ARC Troopers. I still think these could be scaled up like 10%, just a little bit. We have a swappable helmet, not a removable one. We have his pauldron, his kama, his holsters. he's fully decked out. This is Captain Rex. It is fairly simple to swap the heads over, and because this is a swappable head, his antenna also can be flipped down in front of his visor. I love that little feature. That's kind of one of those things that they carried over from the Mandalorian figures, and it is very, very nice to have that. He has all of his weld lines as well, and even though this is actually just printed on, it kind of has a little bit of a 3D effect. I don't know if they used two different colors there that gives it that effect, but that is not sculpted. That is actually just painted on. It looks really good here. However, I have a little bit of a gripe. It does not look as good here on the brow. That is just a thick silver band that runs around. I do appreciate that they have all the weld lines, but up here they just don't look weathered enough. They look like stripes rather than kind of choppiness. There's no unevenness. There's nothing that really makes it stand out. It just looks like a bar, and I'm not really fond of that. So I might go in and kind of try and chip that up a little bit just to give it some variety. Otherwise, it just kind of stands out too much. Now, as far as the gear goes, I'm going to nerd out just a little bit and say that technically, if this is a realistic interpretation of Captain Rex, his pauldron and his camera here are inaccurate, as well as his belt pouch. This is a Clone Wars belt pouch. Even though the holsters are actually Revenge of the Sith, or at least closer to Revenge of the Sith, his ammo belt really should look like this. This is a Revenge of the Sith style, realistic interpretation of the belt box. This is a Clone Wars interpretation, and it just kind of looks out of place on this realistic body. Same thing goes for the camera. This should connect in the back, similar to what we've seen on older 3 3/4 inch clones, and the same precedent is set for the pauldron. This should just look like Commander Bly's pauldron, not like Captain Rex in the Clone Wars. It's, you know, it's an interpretation, it's an animated interpretation, and I think that's okay, but I really don't like how figures have gotten all mix and matched. You know, there's a realistic interpretation of a figure like this, and then there's an animated version, and there's two different stylizations that are going on there, but when you mix and match them, you get something like this that isn't really accurate to either of them. It's not an animated Captain Rex, but it's also not a fully realistic Captain Rex. Now, one thing I will give them a point in the right direction for, here on the back of Captain Rex's helmet, he has the vent lines and things that make this a realistic Phase 2 helmet. I really appreciate that. Like you can see on the back here, the backs of the helmets do match up pretty closely. It's a little bit different. It still has some of that Clone Wars in it, but they seem to have tried to actually make it more realistic. Even though, yeah, there's one more point of super nerdiness. You can leave it down in the comments. Man, Rust Belt Collector sure is a nerd for his clones. Yeah, I am. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just sharing some information. It doesn't ruin the figure for me, but it's just one of those things where if you wanted to go fully accurate, this is what you would need to do that. And that is that it's missing the black line here that you see here, and it's missing the gray band here as well. So those are little paint deco hits that would be appreciated. It doesn't ruin the figure in my mind. It just kind of, you know, makes it lose some points of quality. It's just one of those things where if I'm going to be really nitpicky, I'm going to say, hey, make a fully animated or a fully realistic figure. That's all I'm asking. Just be one or the other, but being both just kind of looks funky. In some future video, I may take my extra Captain Rex and then try and kind of kit bash him into a realistic interpretation just for the heck of it, to have that in my collection and to kind of talk about it more here on the channel. But okay, enough of the nerding out part. I really do like this figure. Do not get me wrong. If you're gonna just want a Captain Rex in 3 3/4 inch, this is the figure to get. The previous iteration is this one, the skinny mold from the Bad Batch 4-pack. This one does have a swap with the 3 3/4 inch Black Series Captain Rex pauldron here, but even so, it's just not a great Captain Rex. In fact, one of the primary reasons why is that this man has a crew cut, a blonde crew cut, and then the new one, the correct one, has a buzz cut. So I appreciate that, at least. You know, this was our previous Captain Rex. He's animated, he's realistic, he's weird, and we can get him out of here for now this more peak DVC Captain Rex. Okay, so after all the tangents and all the complaining, what are the thoughts on the battle pack and this Captain Rex? Honestly, this right here, this, two battle packs where you have the two 332nd, two 501st Captain Rex in a lineup on a shelf, this makes it all worth it. Right here. This is so awesome. The body molds all match, the colors all match. They look incredible. I have my gripes with Captain Rex, and that's fine, and you know, I may go back in and paint my own and customize it, and yeah, I wish Hasbro got that right from the start, but this right here is something that I think we've all wanted as Clone Trooper fans and just fans of Star Wars in general. We want army builders. We want the boys in blue and the boys in different colors from the Clone Wars in 3 3/4 inch in a very nice, fully articulated sculpt that is accurate and not flimsy and not weirdly proportioned. This right here is what we were wanting. And I can lay aside my nitpicks over Captain Rex to get this right here. Honestly, this feels like a bit of a renaissance, a return to form for 3 3/4 inch clone troopers. And I will say this on the record forever, Hasbro, please repaint this clone trooper as many times as humanly possible. I will take a 442nd, I will take a Commander Bly, a 327th, literally any of the skins from Battlefront 2, the 2015 version. Give me 13th Iron Battalion, give me Camino Security, give me Shock Troopers, give me all the repaints, Hasbro, please. So all that to say, I am really enjoying collecting these clone figures. I've already got, I think, 3 of these battle packs. I might get another one just to have some extra shinies on hand for customs down the road maybe, unless maybe they'll do like a single carded version of this. I hope so, I don't know. If you're a clone fan and you're tired of trying to track down these older figures that are still holding up today in 2024, this is your option right here, and I'm so pleased to have these, you know, in stock and readily available for modern collectors. But anyways, those are my thoughts on the new Vintage Collection Captain Rex and the Vintage Collection Clone Trooper Battle Pack Army Builder set. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. What do you think about these? Are you picking these up? Are you on the fence? Are you like a clone hater or something like that? And if so, I guess I'm not sure why you were watching this video all the way through, but either way, just let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on these. And as always, guys, I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll catch you all in the next video.